Mike 10D over on the War Thunder Reddit has revealed quite a few of the stats for the upcoming World War II Chronicles event vehicles. So I thought it would be a good idea to go over them and let you guys basically know what you're getting for your time spent grinding. So, firstly, we have the A33 Excelsior, the experimental British infantry support tank. It has a pretty sweet all-round 3D model. It's basically just a Cromwell turret stuck on the top of a sort of like a bastard between a Cromwell chassis and a Churchill chassis. It's, you can see the resemblance in it. It's pretty sweet looking. And its armor is what's the most important thing, because you've got a slow-moving sort of tank. It goes about 24 miles an hour off-road. It doesn't say that's how it's going to perform in-game, but that's what the basically Wikipedia says. But you know how Wikipedia is. It's a bit temperamental. So what's the armor like? Well, it appears to have about 50mm on the side of the hull, 90 on the side of the turret, 144mm on the front mantlet, with a large gap of 63.5mm where the Besser gun and the main gun protrude. That could be a problem, as anyone knows in War Thunder, if you've got a weak spot on the turret, you cannot conceal it. You can sort of try and angle with it, but if someone fires it, the odds are they're going through, and everyone in your turret's going to be taking one of those, flame grilled sort of sessions. The front armor is 114mm, nearly all around, except with the machine gun port where the second Besser machine gun protrudes, which is 114 plus 10. So you've actually got a more armored machine gun port than normal. So you've sort of got like no weakness there. The only real weakness on this tank appears to be the hole in the gun mantlet, which is all around pretty solid. The BR for this tank is 4.3 across all modes, so it's identical in that regard to the T14 American Premium Heavy Tank. Actually, these things are very comparable because they both are armed with 75mm guns as well. The A33 Excelsior has the 75mm QQF Mark V cannon, or 5 if you're not Latin. Now, the gun has a pretty good turret traverse of 24 degrees a second, so you don't really have to move the hull that much when you turn the turret. So you can basically just sort of point and click, so that's relatively solid. A gun depression of 12.5 degrees and 20 degrees. So basically you can aim basically as far down as you want and as far as up as you want. So terrain isn't going to phase this thing at all. You're just going to sort of just point and click. You can be like in a ditch, you're fine. You can be on a hill, you're fine. Nothing's going to phase you. And it's got a 5-second reload, so rate of fire is relatively impressive at 12 rounds a minute if you've got a fully upgraded crew. It's also armed with two 7.92 Besser machine guns, but they're not really that important. The only thing you're really going to be able to kill with that is the odd scrub in an AA truck, and maybe a low-flying, really slow bomber. But apart from that, not much use. It has 5 crew, weighs 40 tons, and has 600 horsepower. So it's got relatively good maneuverability. It's not going to be the best. It's just going to be better than the Churchill, which is, to be honest, what you want. The Churchill has probably the worst mobility of any vehicle in the game. Second off, we have the Matilda F96. The Matilda F96, I've already shown the model for in my previous video, but it looks like an all-round Matilda just with a new turret. So because of that, you already know what you're getting with the hull. A relatively solid piece of kit of about 75mm of armor all around with 70 on the sides. The new turret appears to be relatively well armored, being 75 degrees all around, with an exception of a tiny weak spot where the gun breech is protected, which appears to be 45, so this thing could be prone to losing your breech. That's what I thought, at least, until it turned out that it has a BAR of 3.3 across all modes, so this thing is going to be fighting long-barrel Panzer IVs consistently. This is a big deal, because the main thing with the Matilda is its armor. And because this thing's armor is going to be negated mainly by the massive penetration on the German long-barrel guns, this thing might not perform as well. The gun it's armed with is the 76mm F96 cannon, which is basically the same gun in the early T-34s, and as such it has all the ammo options that has as well. But there's 2 have been removed, so you've got 4 ammo options. It's all the stuff you would be using. It's not bad at all. It can kill most things it faces relatively easily. It's going to be versatile. It's a versatile gun. It's got a reload of 6.9 seconds, which is pretty good. So you're going to be able to put a pretty good amount of shells downfield. The turret traverse is 20 degrees a second, so decent. But this is where it sucks. It has a gun depression of -2 degrees and a gun elevation of 20 degrees. So as long as you're fighting uphill, you should be fine. But the problem is, if you're fighting downhill, you have a massive blind spot directly in front of you, which is, yeah, it's not a good thing. So, yeah, not pleasant. It's also armed with a 7.62 DT machine gun, so if you feel like spraying a couple of AA trucks, you can, which is good. And then there's all the ammo options. You've seen them all before. The tank is armed with the BR350A shot, which is the armor-piercing high-explosive ballistic cap shell. The 350M HE shell. The Shat shell, as I like to call it, which is the shrapnel shell. And the armor-piercing ballistic cap shell, the BR350SP. And the BR53B. As I said, it literally has a shit ton of ammos. And it's missing the heat and the APCR ammo, but you've got what you need. All-round decent piece of kit. So decent gun, bad armor, unless you get down-tiered, and relatively bad mobility. The Matilda is more of a collector's tank here, but you could probably get some good fun out of it, at least in custom games, and if you get down-tiered with it. But in the event of an up-tier, you're going to cry deeply, like the Churchill gun motor carriers. Next, we have the PVD, the PV2D, which has already had a dev blog release, so there's no real point showing you the 3D model, as everyone's seen it by now. But what you haven't seen is the cockpit. So it has a pretty sweet-looking cockpit. You've got a funky-looking gun sight over on the side there, and it looks pretty detailed. It doesn't look like a work in progress. Well, it does, but it looks more detailed than most of the work in progress, so it looks pretty sweet. The BR is 3.3 across all modes, with a turn time of 28 degrees a second. 28 seconds. All round, it's just an A20. It's an A20 Havoc. That's what it is. You've got an A20 Havoc with a slightly better engine performance and a load of options for bomb load. So what are the bomb load options, you might ask? Well, firstly, you have the option to take no bombs or rockets. So if you want to be that guy who just wants to strafe ground target and say fuck everything, you don't have to take anything. But if you do want to take options, you have the option of 8 Havar rockets, 2 Tiny Tim plus 8 Havar rockets, 1 M13 torpedo for those pesky battleships, plus 8 Havar rockets. Man, this thing loves Havar rockets. 3 500-pounders plus 4 250-pounders plus 8 Havar rockets. 7 250-pounders and 8 Havar rockets. 4 1,000-pounders and 8 Havar rockets. And possibly the option for 7 250-pounders. They're not exactly sure yet, but that could be a thing. Just from the look of this, they've already forgotten that the PV2D could carry 6,000 pounds of bombage in the form of 4,000-pound bombs in the bomb bay and 2,000s under the wings. I don't know why it hasn't got that option, but then again, the Lincoln bomber has an equal bomb load to this thing, even though it theoretically can carry anything the Lancaster can, because it's just a better Lancaster. So fuck that. Next, we've got the Yak-3T, which has a pretty sweet-looking model. It's just a Yak. You've seen it all before. If you've driven the Yak-3s, the late war Yak-9s, you know what you're getting with this. And it has... where is it at? It also has a cockpit, which I haven't opened yet. Which is just the Yak cockpit. If you've played the Yak, you've seen this cockpit. It looks identical, actually, to the Yak-9P cockpit, which is what I've been grinding today. And it's got good all-round visibility. It doesn't have that crappy bulletproof glass in the window, so you don't have to worry about a guy coming out of blind, a huge blind spot if you're playing in a sim. But all around, it's got a sweet cockpit. Back on to what this was. It is BR'd at 5.3 for AB, 5.3 for RB, and 5.7 for SB, with a max altitude of 10,400 meters, a turn time of 19 seconds, a climb speed of 20.5, which is pretty good. That's a decent climb speed. You'll be able to outclimb quite a few things with that. But as I said, it's a Yak, so you want to stay nearer to about 5,000 meters, which is what this thing says is its ideal altitude. And it has a pretty good roll rate, so this thing is going to perform basically like a Yak with a 37mm and 220s. So I'm imagining it's going to be very similar to the last two Yak-9 variants in the tree. So I'd recommend going for this, but I'm not sure how the overheat mechanic is going to work for it. Because historically, this particular variant had a lot of issues with overheating, that's why the project was abandoned. But because this is War Thunder, for all I know, it could not even be implemented. Either way, that's a basic overview. I'm going to put a link down in the description below if any of you wants to go over this in more detail. Again, credit to Mike10D. If you like what you saw here, leave a comment, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And tell me what you think of these. Leave a comment down below. I like to hear what your opinion is. Either way, keep on gaming and have a good one.